That Saturday was supposed to be easy. We were going to Mike and Jenna's 10th anniversary party. Our closest friends, practically family. Sophie and I had both known them since college. The four of us had done countless dinners, weekend getaways, game nights. They were the kind of couple that made people believe in the long haul, and we were proud to be part of their celebration. Sophie left a couple of hours ahead of me. "I promised Jenna I'd help with the decorations," she said, slipping on her flats while balancing her phone between shoulder and cheek. "She's stressing out about the flower arrangements or something. I won't be long." "No problem," I said, tossing her the car keys. "Text me if you need anything." She smiled, that warm, familiar curve of the lips I used to believe in without question, and said, "Just don't be late. Okay? You know how Mike gets about speeches." I nodded. I wasn't expecting anything weird that night. In fact, if you'd asked me that morning, I would have said we were in a pretty solid place. Maybe a little distant, maybe not as connected as we used to be. But that's marriage, right? Life gets full. You drift and reel each other back in. I took my time getting ready. The house was quiet. I ironed my shirt, threw on the cologne she liked, cedar and citrus, nothing fancy, and left around 6:30. The venue was a small, *mate place by the lake. String lights overhead, candles on each table. Music pulsed faintly under the sound of people laughing, hugging, catching up. I scanned the room, expecting to see Sophie near the front with Jenna, helping set out desserts or arguing about centerpieces. Instead, I found her dancing. She was on the small dance floor under the lights, spinning slowly in the arms of a tall guy in a rust-colored shirt. She was laughing, her hair loosely curled, brushed against his shoulder as she leaned into him. His hand was low on her back, too low for just friends. But maybe that's me reading too much into it. I tore my eyes away and walked toward one of the round tables by the stage. That's when I saw her phone. Face up, screen still on. A message had just come in. I didn't pick it up, didn't scroll or snoop. The message was just there. "Your scent is still on my neck." I blinked. My first thought was, this must be a joke. A weird group text. Some inside thing from work, maybe. But something in me dropped. A quiet, heavy weight settling in my chest. I sat down slowly, almost in autopilot. Her phone buzzed again and the message disappeared into the lock screen. I didn't try to wake it back up. Instead, I took off my wedding ring. A habit I didn't realize I had until that exact moment. I always fiddled with it when I was thinking or nervous. I slipped it off, set it on her chair cushion, and waited. I couldn't watch her dance anymore. I kept my eyes on the glass centerpiece, the flicker of the candle flame inside it, the soft ripple of conversations around me. Everything felt distant and far away, like I wasn't really there. A few minutes later, she noticed me. I didn't wave or call her over, just sat there, letting her see me. She froze mid-spin. The guy in the rust shirt leaned in to say something, and she didn't even respond. She stepped off the floor quickly, brushing her hands down the front of her dress like she was smoothing out nerves. "Hey," she said, breathless and smiling, until she saw the ring. She paused. Then her eyes flicked to the table and landed on her phone. She picked it up. The lock screen lit up. Maybe the message still hovered there. I watched her face shift. Surprise, then something else. Not panic exactly, more like calculation. Like she was trying to figure out how much I saw, how much I knew. "It's a joke," she said quickly. Her voice was hushed, like we were suddenly in a library and not at a party with music pumping through the walls. "A dumb joke from a group chat at work. You know Matt and Jen from the office? They've been sending weird messages all week to prank people." I just looked at her. I didn't say anything. I wanted to believe her. I really did. She tucked the phone into her clutch and gave a light, nervous laugh. "God, you looked like you saw a ghost. Don't tell me you thought." She stopped herself, smiling like this whole thing was hilarious. "I know how you get," she added, tone softening. "You always read too much into things." There it was, the deflection. It wasn't just the message that bothered me. It was how quick she was to explain it away, to turn it back on me like I was the problem for noticing. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. My jaw clenched. I wasn't angry yet. I was just hollow, like something had quietly broken, and I hadn't figured out how deep the damage went. Sophie pulled the ring off the chair and held it in her palm, glancing around to see if anyone noticed. "This is overreacting," she whispered. "Please don't do this here." "I didn't do anything," I said finally. My voice didn't even sound like mine. She gave me a look, equal parts pleading and warning. "Let's just get through tonight, okay?" I didn't answer. I stood up, and for a moment, I thought about leaving. But I couldn't. I stayed. Maybe because I didn't want to ruin Mike and Jenna's night. Or maybe because I still wanted to believe her. So I followed her to the buffet line. We filled our plates and made small talk with people we both barely knew. Every so often, she'd lean in and say something under her breath, trying to bridge the silence between us. But I couldn't hear her through the noise in my head. Who sends a message like that? "Your scent is still on my neck." It was int asterisk mate. Familiar. Like something you say in the kind of moment that leaves no room for doubt. I started watching everything after that. The way she tilted her phone screen away while texting. How the guy in the rust shirt kept glancing over like he was waiting for her. She never went back on the dance floor, but she didn't come close to me either. I sat there in the middle of people clinking glasses and toasting love, and I felt like the only one who didn't belong. Later that night, after we got home, I asked again. Who was the message from? She was brushing her hair in the mirror, already in pajamas. She met my eyes in the glass. "I told you, Matt from work. He's dating Jen now, and they've been pulling this prank where they send fake flirty texts and see who gets caught first. It's dumb." I didn't even laugh. I didn't press. I didn't argue. I just nodded like I accepted it. But deep down, something shifted. A small crack, silent but spreading. She climbed into bed and kissed my cheek. "Let's not go to sleep mad. Okay?" I whispered, "Okay," and turned off the lamp. But sleep didn't come. I stared at the ceiling, her breath slow and even beside me. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. A joke. Coincidence. But my gut, the part of me I'd learned to ignore for the sake of peace, was already screaming. I didn't sleep that night. Even after Sophie rolled over and draped her arm across my chest like she always did, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, counting the slow rotations of the fan above our bed like it would hypnotize me into forgetting what I saw. But I couldn't forget. The message, "Your scent is still on my neck," burned behind my eyes like it was seared there. And the more I tried to dismiss it, the more my brain began flipping through memories like pages in a book I hadn't wanted to reread. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. But denial is only good until you start asking questions. And I was starting to ask them one by one. Like when she stopped charging her phone in the bedroom. We used to joke about how both of us had a phone addiction. We'd keep them by our pillows, scrolling late into the night, passing memes back and forth in bed like teenagers. Then, about 2 months ago, she started saying the blue light messed with her sleep. "Trying to be healthier," she said, kissing me on the forehead as she set her phone on the kitchen counter instead of the nightstand. I thought it was growth, discipline. I even felt guilty for keeping mine by the bed. But now it felt like a quiet, strategic move, getting her phone out of reach, out of sight, out of my world. Then there was her laptop. Sophie had always been casual with it. It used to live on the dining table or the couch, open and available. But lately, it had become an extension of her body. She started carrying it in a backpack even for short trips, grocery store, gas station, nail salon. I'd make jokes. "Going to war?" I'd ask, pointing at the bulky bag over her shoulder. She'd roll her eyes. "You never know when I'll need to fix a client file. Jenna's all over my case this week." I believed her. Of course I did. Sophie worked in advertising, tight deadlines, needy clients, endless campaign edits. It made sense. Until it didn't. I started replaying things I hadn't thought about in weeks, months, like that new perfume she started wearing. Not the one I gave her last Christmas. The one she used to love, that soft vanilla lavender blend that reminded me of slow mornings and tangled blankets. This one was sharper, muskier, more daring. "Do you like it?" she asked the first time she wore it. I wanted to try something new. It smelled like someone else. Someone bolder, more reckless. And I said yes because I wanted to support her. Because in a marriage, you encourage change, you don't question it. Now I wondered who she was really wearing it for. Then there was Austin. 2 months ago, she had a sudden business trip to Austin for a last-minute client pitch. Left Thursday morning, came back late Sunday night. I remember being surprised she didn't complain about the long flight. Sophie hated traveling for work, always groaned about delays, bad food, and hotel sheets. This time she was quiet, not glowing exactly but content, relaxed in a way that felt unfamiliar. I asked her how it went. She smiled and said, "It was fine, long draining." Then she changed the subject. No photos, no stories, no post-trip rants. I didn't push. I didn't want to be that guy, the overbearing, insecure husband who couldn't handle a little independence. But now that trip felt like the first domino, and I couldn't stop seeing the pattern. Even her workouts had changed. Sophie wasn't a big fitness person. We used to joke about how we both preferred pizza nights to treadmills. But recently, she started running in the evenings. She downloaded a new app, bought new gear, started jogging around the neighborhood with a friend from the agency. "Who?" I asked once. "Just a guy from accounting," she said. "You wouldn't know him." That was the first time I heard the phrase running buddy. I didn't think much of it. I remember smiling and saying, "Look at you, getting your 10K in." One night, she got a call while we were watching TV. She paused the show, walked into the other room, and closed the door. The number was unfamiliar. She came back 10 minutes later, flushed and out of breath, saying it was Nina from work. But I saw the screen light up again a few hours later when she thought I wasn't looking. Same number, no name, just, "Miss you already." That should have been the moment I knew. But I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was paranoid. I told myself that every couple hits rough patches. That Sophie and I were solid. That this was just a bump. I didn't realize I was standing in the middle of a landslide. By Wednesday, I couldn't take it anymore. I started watching her closely. Not with suspicion, but with a kind of quiet grief. Like I was observing the final days of something I loved but couldn't hold on to. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, but her lips barely brushed mine. She still asked about my day, but only while scrolling on her phone. She still said, "Love you," every night before turning off the light, but the words felt pre-recorded. Something was missing. The connection, the weight, the meaning. And once you start to notice the gaps, you start to realize how wide they really are. That Friday morning, she told me she'd be sleeping over at Nina's place. "Pre-wedding girls' night," she said, zipping up an overnight bag I hadn't seen her pack. "They want to do face masks and watch wedding movies. You know, corny stuff." She laughed like it was the most harmless thing in the world. I forced a smile. "Sounds fun. Tell Nina I said hi." She kissed me lightly, then left. An hour later, I stood in the hallway staring at the closed front door. Something inside me begging me not to let it slide this time. So I didn't. That night, I waited until midnight. Then I drove to Nina's apartment building and parked across the street. Her windows were dark. No lights, no music, no voices. I waited for 30 minutes. Then I drove. I didn't know where I was going. Not really. My hands gripped the steering wheel like they were trying to crush it. I kept driving until I hit the edge of town. That's when I saw it, Sophie's car, parked at the far end of the Lakeview Lodge parking lot. Tucked away, almost hidden behind a row of trimmed bushes. I pulled over and K** led the engine. The lodge was a boutique hotel. We'd gone there once, years ago, for a friend's birthday. It had a fireplace in every room, champagne in the mini-fridge, and enough privacy to keep secrets sealed in wood-paneled walls. At 1:23 a.m., the front door opened. She stepped out, not in jeans and a hoodie like someone leaving a sleepover. She was in a dress, sleek, black, the kind of dress you keep in a garment bag because it means something. Her hair was freshly styled. her makeup intact. And beside her, him, tall, rust-colored shirt, the same guy from the dance. He had one arm around her waist as they walked toward his car. She leaned into him like it was muscle memory, like she belonged there. She said something and he laughed, and then they kissed. Quick in asterisk mate, not shy. They got into his car and drove away. I didn't follow. I didn't take pictures. I didn't scream. I just stood there under the flickering lodge sign as the cold settled into my bones and the truth finally reached my heart. I don't remember how long I stood there after their car disappeared. The Lakeview Lodge sign buzzed faintly above me, one of the bulbs flickering like it was struggling to stay awake. The air was cold, sharp enough to sting my lungs when I breathed too deeply. I didn't move. I didn't even check the time. I just stood there with my hands shoved into my jacket pockets, trying to understand how something could feel so unreal and yet so final at the same time. I kept replaying it in my head, frame by frame, like my mind was desperate to find a different ending. Sophie stepping out of the hotel. The dress. The way she laughed. The way he pulled her close like it was instinct, not hesitation. There was no awkwardness. No guilt. No sign that this was a mistake or a one-time lapse. This wasn't discovery. This was confirmation. I sat back in my car eventually, though I don't remember deciding to. My body just did it for me. I turned the heater on full blast, but I still couldn't feel my fingers. My phone sat in the cup holder, dark and silent. No messages from her. No check-ins. No good night text like she used to send even when she stayed over at Nina's. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to yell. Mostly, I didn't want to be anywhere near my own thoughts. So I waited. I waited because some stupid part of me thought maybe she'd come back. Maybe she'd realize I wasn't at home. Maybe she'd panic. Maybe she'd call. She didn't. At around 3 in the morning, I finally drove away. Not home. Just away. I took back roads, letting the empty streets stretch in front of me. Every red light felt personal, like it was forcing me to stop and think when all I wanted was motion. When I did get home, the house was exactly how I'd left it. Quiet. Still. Her shoes by the door. Her mug in the sink from that morning. A faint ring of coffee at the bottom. The normalcy felt cruel. I sat at the kitchen table until sunrise. When she finally came home, it was close to 9. I heard her keys before I saw her. She walked in carefully, like someone returning to a place they weren't sure they belonged anymore. She smelled like that new perfume, sharp and unfamiliar. "Hey," she said softly. I looked up. I must have looked worse than I felt because she froze. "You're home early," she added. "I never left," I said. Her eyes flicked away for half a second. Then she smiled, small, cautious. "Girls' night ran long." I nodded. "I know." She hesitated, then set her bag down. "You okay?" I didn't answer right away. I watched her move around the kitchen, pretending everything was normal. She poured herself water, leaned against the counter, avoided my eyes. "I drove by Nina's," I said finally. Her hand stilled on the glass. "The lights were off," I continued, "so I kept driving." She swallowed, hard. "I saw your car at Lakeview Lodge." Silence flooded the room, thick and heavy. She didn't deny it. She didn't laugh or deflect or accuse me of misunderstanding. She just closed her eyes like someone bracing for impact. "I can explain," she whispered. "I saw you," I said. "I saw him." That's when she broke. Not crying at first, just collapsing into a chair like her legs had given up on her. She pressed her palms to her face and breathed out a shaky, defeated sound. "I didn't plan for you to find out like this," she said. That sentence did something to me. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't remorse. It was logistics, timing. "So there was a plan," I said. She didn't answer. I stood up, suddenly dizzy. "How long?" She hesitated. "Too long." "Does it matter?" she asked quietly. "Yes," I said. "It matters to me." She stared at the table. A few months. There it was. Clean. Simple. Brutal. I laughed once, sharp and hollow. The dance. The message. Austin. Nina. The runs. The phone. That was all. This? She nodded. I waited for something, regret, guilt, tears. Instead, she just looked tired, relieved maybe that she didn't have to lie anymore. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. But you did, I replied. Every day. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. I need air, I said. She didn't stop me. I drove again, this time without direction. I ended up at a rest stop just outside town and sat there until my hands stopped shaking. That was the moment I knew something important. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. When I came back, Sophie was asleep on the couch, curled in on herself like she was trying to disappear. I went to the bedroom alone. That night, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clarity. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay awake in the bedroom, alone, listening to the muffled hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the occasional shift of Sophie's weight on the couch, and the silence that had begged *N to feel like the new language of our marriage. She hadn't followed me after I left. She didn't text. She didn't knock on the bedroom door. And when I came back home earlier, she was already asleep, knees tucked to her chest, arms hugging a pillow. It was the kind of posture you see in people trying to hide from their own life. I should have been angry. I should have wanted answers, a confrontation, an explosion. But there was nothing left inside me that needed to scream. The betrayal had spoken loud enough. So I wrote the letter. Not because I wanted her to suffer. Not because I wanted to cause pain. I wrote it because I needed to say what I'd never be able to say in person without breaking down, or worse, without softening the truth to make it easier for her to hear. Took me an hour to get the tone right. I didn't want pity in it. I didn't want rage. I just wanted clarity, cold, honest clarity. I folded the letter in thirds and slid it into an envelope. I wrote her name on the front in plain blue ink. No to Sophie, no love, no date. Just her name. Just enough to say, this is for you. This is what you've done. At dawn, I got dressed quietly. The sky was still half dark outside the window, that uncertain blue before sunrise. I grabbed my keys, walked out the front door, and gently closed it behind me. The air was still, the street completely silent except for one early jogger disappearing down the block. I walked to the mailbox. For a second, I just stood there, holding the envelope. Felt heavier than it should have. Not because of the paper, but because of everything it meant. Everything it would end. I let it go. It slid into the mailbox with a soft thump. Then I walked a block down and sat on the cold concrete steps of an empty storefront. From there, I had a clear view of the house, but not close enough that she'd notice me. I waited. Around 7:20, the porch light clicked off. A few minutes later, I saw her figure through the frosted glass of the front door. She opened it wearing her gray tracksuit, the one she always wore on slow Sunday mornings. Her hair was tied up in a loose bun. She had her earbuds in. No makeup. Just a girl expecting junk mail and coffee. She stepped outside with that same soft yawn she always had in the mornings, opened the mailbox, and reached inside. She pulled out the letter. At first, she looked at it like it might be a bill or a forgotten birthday card. Then she saw her name, written in my handwriting. Her whole body stiffened. She glanced around once, eyes scanning the street. I pressed myself further against the side of the steps, half shielded by the concrete ledge. I wasn't sure why I didn't want her to see me. Maybe I wanted her to feel alone with it. She opened the envelope right there, standing barefoot on the porch. She read the first few lines. Her body froze. No flinch. No tears yet. Just stillness, like she'd been turned to stone. She kept reading, and I watched the paper start to tremble slightly in her hands. Her mouth parted, and she took one slow step backward toward the door. Then another. The letter hung loose in her fingers like it was burning her, like she didn't know what to do with it. And then she crumpled it. Not hard, not with rage, but like she didn't want to look at it anymore, didn't want to feel the shape of the words in her hands. She didn't tear it, just crushed it into a clumsy ball and held it against her stomach as she went back inside. Her hands were shaking. The door closed. I waited another 5 minutes before I walked back. By the time I opened the front door, She was sitting at the kitchen table with both hands flat on the surface, staring blankly at the crumpled letter in front of her like it might spring to life. She didn't look up when I came in. I didn't say a word. Neither did she. We just existed in the same room for a few silent seconds. Then I walked past her and went into the bedroom. The silence after that was different. Not tense. Not cold. Just unspoken. Like a pause before something neither of us was ready to name. That day, she texted me 7 times. At first, they were just sentences, trying to explain. I never meant for it to get serious. He was just a distraction. That's all. Please don't give up on us. I didn't respond. Then came the guilt trips. You don't even want to talk to me? 10 years and I get a letter? What am I supposed to do with this? And finally, desperation. Please, just talk to me. I'll tell you everything. Anything you want. Just say something. But I didn't, because I had already said it. The letter said it better than I ever could. It had started like this. Sophie, you once told me that you loved how honest I was, that it made you feel safe, that no matter what, I wouldn't lie to you. I've spent years thinking honesty was the thing holding us together. Turns out I was the only one being honest. Last night, I saw you leave the Lakeview Lodge with him. I saw the dress. I saw how you leaned into him. I saw how he touched your waist like it wasn't the first time, and you let him. I saw how you looked at him, not like you were afraid of getting caught, but like you didn't care if you were. You didn't come home to me. You didn't call. You didn't even send a lie to hold it all together. That part hurt the most, honestly. The silence. And now I'm the one who has to break it. You made choices. You made them quietly over and over again. Changing your perfume. Locking your phone. Telling stories that didn't hold up under daylight. You made your exit long before I noticed the door was open. I don't want explanations. I don't want apologies. I don't need to know if it was love or lust or loneliness or boredom. I'm done trying to fix a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. This is me letting go. You don't owe me a performance. You don't owe me a breakdown. You don't owe me anything, really. But you will read this. You will know that I saw you. That I wasn't as blind as you hoped I'd be. That I loved you. And that you broke something I can't put back together. Me. She never replied to the letter directly. But I know she read every word, probably more than once. I could see it in the way she avoided me, like someone ducking out of the rain and realizing the floods already reached the 2nd floor. That evening, she tried to talk again. She came to the bedroom door, knocked gently, then leaned against the frame. I got your letter, she said. I didn't turn around. I know you hate me right now. Silence. I thought I was doing okay. I thought we were okay. I almost laughed. Then she added quieter. I don't even know who I am anymore. I said nothing. And maybe that was the most honest thing I could have done. Stay silent. Because no version of Sophie I knew would have ever needed a hotel room and someone else's scent to feel seen. I thought the silence would last longer. That she'd keep the truth sealed up, hidden behind closed doors like people always do when they're trying to salvage the version of themselves they show the world. But cracks spread faster than people think, especially when they've been walking on thin ice for months without realizing it. It started with a post. Sophie worked in an ad agency, big on image, big on connection, big on saying the right thing at the right time. She and her team loved sharing curated bits of their lives. Behind the scenes sh*TS from shoots, filtered coffee breaks, relatable memes about deadlines. She lived on that attention. So when one of her coworkers posted on their story, "Don't lose someone who respects you for someone who just entertains you," it didn't take long before people started talking. The timing was too perfect. 2 days after the Lakeview Lodge. The same coworker who'd once raved about Sophie's incredible commitment. The caption wasn't subtle and it wasn't meant to be. I didn't share my side. I didn't post anything. I didn't even like the post. But I watched. A few hours later, someone else posted a blurry photo from the party. The wedding anniversary where I saw the message. There she was dancing with him, his hand on her back, her head thrown back laughing, framed by twinkle lights and the kind of betrayal that looks harmless unless you know what you're looking at. The comments started small. Oof. Wait. Is this what I think it is? Bold to do that at a friend's party. Then someone shared a sh*T outside Lakeview Lodge. A car parked under the streetlight. Two figures walking to it. Her dress. His shirt. That was all it took. By that evening, Sophie had deleted her account. Gone. Vanished. No announcement. No taking a break from socials. Just erased. The funny thing is, I hadn't even thought of revenge. I never forwarded the message. Never took a photo of her at the hotel. I didn't send a single *T to a single person. I told no one, not even Mike, whose party it had been. Not Jenna, not mutual friends, not my brother, who probably would have set the guy's car on fire if I'd let him. I didn't need to. The truth did the work. Sophie's carefully constructed life, the one built on appearances, clever captions, brunches with the team, and curated stories, started to fall apart. Slowly at first, then all at once. I didn't even know it had spread to her family until I walked into the hallway one morning and found her sitting on the stairs, clutching her phone like it might disintegrate in her hands. She looked up when she saw me. Her face was pale, bare, no makeup, just red eyes and the kind of expression you don't fake. "She's not answering me," she whispered. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. She added, almost to herself, "My mom. She thinks God, she thinks I've lost my mind." I stayed quiet. She stood up, slowly, like her legs didn't want to support her. "You let this happen." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't even defend me," she said. Her voice wasn't loud but sharp, tired, angry in that way people get when they're cornered by consequences. "No," I said. "I didn't." Her lips trembled. "You could have stopped it." "I didn't start it." That shut her up. She sank onto the couch and pulled her knees up to her chest, staring at the blank TV screen. We didn't speak after that. She didn't try again either. The hallway went quiet for the rest of the day. I don't know how much damage was actually done at her job, but by the end of the week, she wasn't going in anymore. She tried working from home, claimed she needed space to refocus, but she mostly just wandered the house, opening drawers like she was looking for something she couldn't find. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found her ripping pages out of a notebook. She didn't even look at me, just kept tearing. I stood in the doorway and said, "You're unraveling." She looked up, breathing hard. "And you're just what? Watching?" I nodded, because that's all I was doing. Felt strange watching someone self-destruct. You think it'll be satisfying. You think it'll feel like justice, but it doesn't. It just feels inevitable, like gravity doing its job. People always say they want closure, like it's a button you press and then you're healed. But closure doesn't come with answers. It comes when you finally stop asking the questions. That was me now. I didn't care who she texted. I didn't care what she said to her coworkers. I didn't care if she ever explained it to her mother. That wasn't my burden anymore. One night, I heard her crying in the shower. Not loud, just muffled, long. I stood outside the door for a second, hand hovering above the knob. Then I walked away, because I wasn't the guy she cried for. I was the guy she cried about. After a few days of that, she tried something new, sudden sweetness. Small peace offerings. She made me coffee one morning. I didn't drink it. She left little folded notes with vague half-sentences like, "Still us?" and "You and me. Maybe not broken?" I didn't touch them. She even left my favorite hoodie on the bed, freshly washed and folded. I put it in the closet without wearing it. None of it landed. Because once you've seen someone choose someone else while still saying they love you, it changes the way you hear everything they say after that. One night, she sat on the edge of the bed, not asking for permission. "I'm not proud of what I did," she said, staring down at her feet. "But it didn't come from nothing." I looked at her. "Are you trying to blame me for this?" "No," she said quickly. "No, I just mean, maybe we were already falling apart. Maybe I just accelerated it." I let that sit in the air between us. "Even if that were true," I said finally, "you had other options." She nodded, slowly. "I know. Silence again. Then she looked up at me with those wide, watery eyes and said, "But I'm still your wife." I didn't answer, because technically, yes, but not in any way that mattered. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. She left a note on the fridge that said she needed space, time, a long drive, whatever. I didn't text her. I didn't wonder where she went. I went about my day. At noon, Mike called. "You okay?" he asked. His voice was careful, like someone walking barefoot through glass. "Why wouldn't I be?" I replied, pretending I didn't know what he meant. "Someone posted about her again," he said. "Different angle. You can see his face this time." I said nothing. Mike hesitated. "You want me to take it down?" "No," I said. "Let people see what they need to see." He paused. "You sure?" "Yeah." I hung up a few seconds later. No emotion. No explanation. That was the turning point for me. When I realized I didn't owe her defense. I didn't owe her dignity she wasn't willing to offer me. And I didn't owe the world a version of events that protected anyone but myself. Her world was crumbling, yes, but not because I pushed, because she built it on sand. And the tide finally came in. 3 days after the letter, she finally spoke, not to defend herself, but to confess. We were sitting in silence, both pretending to scroll through our phones when she whispered, "It wasn't just him." I didn't respond. I waited. Then, calm as if reading off a grocery list, she said there had been 2 others. One was a gym trainer. The other, Leo, my old friend, the one who helped us move, the one I trusted with boxes labeled fragile. Never realizing my marriage was the most fragile thing of all. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked at me with a hollow kind of honesty. I realized then this wasn't some slip. It wasn't about love or loss. It was a pattern, a routine. She never thought I'd find out. She gambled on my loyalty, and for a while she was right. Not anymore. A week later I left. No screaming. No final argument. I packed a single suitcase, grabbed my guitar, and left my keys on the counter. I didn't leave a note. She didn't ask where I was going. I drove north to a quiet lake cabin I'd stayed at once years ago. No phone calls. No forwarding address. I deleted every trace of our shared life from my feeds and started over. My first post. Living quieter. Hearing more. Breathing for the first time. I didn't need closure. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted peace. And this time I didn't have to ask for it. I took it.